Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, jobs and economic development. Find out what Valley business leaders are urging state lawmakers to accomplish in 2012. And a team of ASU engineering students is honored by Entrepreneur Magazine. We'll show you what earned the students that distinction. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
A team of ASU engineering students is getting some national attention for G3Box, a business the team started that turns shipping containers into mobile medical clinics. The team is featured in January's edition of Entrepreneur Magazine, with one team member honored as the College Entrepreneur of 2011. And joining us now to talk about the G3Box is biomedical engineering student Gabrielle Palermo and graduate students in mechanical engineering Susanna Young and Clay Tyler. It is good to have you all here. Some of you back on Horizon, but because we talked about this a while. Let's talk about the G3. And first of all, were you the Entrepreneur of the Year, or were you just kind of like the figurehead for the team?
I was the one that applied, but I think all of us can say that we won together.
Okay, so you're all Entrepreneurs of the Year. Okay, what is the G3Box?
G3Box stands for Generating Global Good, and we take shipping containers from around the world basically and convert them into medical clinics.
And this started by way of what, a project designed by an instructor? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it started out through the EPICS program, which is a program started in 2009 at ASU. It stands for Engineering Projects in Community Service. And it was started by the director, Richard Philly. And I was actually put on a team that had two mentors, Dr. Jan Snyder and Dr. Vincent Pizziconi. And Dr. Snyder's been to Africa many times and noticed all of the containers that were in the ports around there that were decommissioned and not being used anymore. And then also noticed the high maternal mortality ratio. So he thought, how can we solve those problems together? And I was on that team that began to implement this project.
What were your first thoughts when you heard about the project?
Well, I've been a friend of Susanna's for a while, so I was around when she first started the project. I didn't get involved with EPICS until about a year later. I thought it was a great idea from the get-go, but I really got started in ASU when I was a part of my senior design class at mechanical engineering, and so I joined EPICS for that. And when I got involved with that, that's when I began my own journey with G3Box.
Did it make sense to you when you got involved? I mean, it made perfect sense to you.
It fit all of my skills as an engineer, all of what I wanted to do as an engineer, and then as well as a social mission. That social side of our kind of endeavors with G3Box, it appealed to me that way too.
And Gabrielle, back when this first started, again, what your first thoughts when you heard about the challenge and your first thoughts on how you reuse these storage containers?
Well, I started off on a separate project called Dock in a Box, and we took containers and converted them into disaster relief clinics. So I was really excited when I got put on this project, and we kind of came together and formed G3Box together. So
okay, biggest challenge though in getting this thing up and operational?
For me, it was learning the business. I've been an engineer. I just take engineering classes, so learning how to run a business was probably the most difficult thing for me.
Was that the most, because you look at this and there's got to be ventilation in these things now. There's got to be potable water. There's got to be all sorts of things. What was some of the early challenges in getting this thing up and going?
Yeah, some of the early challenges were with regard to engineering. So we have this confined space. They're 40 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. So this is a relatively narrow space, although it's quite long. So we had to work within these dimensions to figure out, can this actually function as a clinic? They've been used, containers have been converted into many things. That's not a new idea. It's the idea of making them into a standalone clinic that can function off-grid, really anywhere in the world. So we played around with solar power, wind power. So the main challenges were, associated with engineering, but as the project has progressed, it's become less about how do you make this into a clinic and more about, okay, who's going to want to buy it? Where do we, how do we make this a sustainable business?
Yeah, is that what you're seeing as well? It's gone from engineering challenges to marketing challenges and really sales challenges.
Yeah, definitely. And as we were discussing earlier, we did a little trip this morning to rural hospitals. But as we were discussing this morning, none of us here has really, throughout our career at ASU, really thought of ourselves as being business people. We all thought of ourselves as being like different types of engineers. Not just, we didn't have to be a standard engineer path at ASU, but all the things have all lined in a row for us, with this business, and things have kind of fallen to our path, and we've just kind of, taken as it has come, and we've discovered that, running a business is very, is fun, and it's kind of what we want to do with engineering,
Well, let me ask you a business-oriented question here. How much does it take to build one of these things, and where's the money coming from?
It takes about $15,000 to $16,000 to build. It all depends on what you want inside the clinic. So if it's going to be off the grid and using solar panels versus just being able to plug it in, a lot of it is just customizations. So.
And the money again is coming from?
Right now we're using money that we won through the Edson program, $10,000 there, and we just won an additional $5,000 through this Entrepreneur Magazine competition, which will go towards our second prototype clinic. So.
And the plan now is to sell these to nonprofits and NGOs, and they would be used, what? It's just really where disaster relief, or how would that work?
Yeah, so right now we're looking at 4 different market segments. One would be disaster response, one is domestic rural health care, so in the U.S. or other developed countries, and then international rural health care in, say, developing countries. And then we also have been looking at mining companies or oil and gas companies that work in remote areas that might potentially need an on-site clinic for their employees. So those are 4 market areas that we're investigating right now to determine if there's a viable customer, someone that could afford to pay for these. And the goal would be to take that funding, take that money that is made from those who can afford to pay, and then support what we want to do in developing countries through like improving the maternal mortality ratio, things like that, with what we get. So the profits would go to a nonprofit, basically.
And that's an awful lot going on there. Are you guys partnering with anyone? You got some assistance elsewhere? What's going on here?
Well, we have a lot of mentors from the Edson program that ASU has put together down in Skysong in Tempe. We've got partners or more mentors in the manufacturing side of things. We've got a great mentor, Gordon McConnell at the Edson, who is really coordinating a lot of things. We've also gotten partnerships with DPR Construction. Well, yeah, who's helping us with our first prototype. So not official partnerships, but we're getting bridges built and different partnerships in the industries, such as contractors and all that.
Interesting. We were talking about how you're all engineering students, and all of a sudden you got business concerns. Talk to me about how this particular project has changed, or if it has changed, your career plans.
Oh my goodness. I entered college not interested in business at all, but once I started getting involved in this converting containers into clinics, it's what I wanted to do because of my interest in medicine, and it slowly evolved into a business without me really kind of knowing. It's more of a surprise, and I've loved it every second. So
you see yourself going further on the business aspect of something like this?
Yes, this is my career for now, and hopefully for a very long time to come. So.
Very good. How does it change your plans?
Well, I always knew when I started engineering that it wouldn't be this typical engineering path where I'd go work for, say, Honeywell or Boeing, one of the large corporations. I preferred small businesses, and so turning something into, or making my own business or our own business together fit way more into what I saw myself as an engineer. And then as we've gone on in this project, what we've noticed is that we all had passions for developing countries, but we also realized that there's a lot of needs in our own country here in the U.S., and especially in Arizona too. We want to be a part of creating jobs and making something that's made in the U.S., something like that.
Well, we got to stop it right there. It's good to have you all here on the show. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next time on Arizona Horizon, we'll take a look at the legal problems facing the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and we'll check out the winners of a contest aimed at improving Arizona. That's next on Arizona Horizon. That's weeknights at 5:30 and 10 right here on 8 HD. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.